Hi folks, Kane Smith here from kanesmithcopywriter.com, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to write killer email subject lines that get the click. I'm going to take you through 3 rules I apply, like filters really, that you can run your email subject lines through and drastically increase your open rates. It's going to be quite a tactical lesson. It's going to be over the shoulder. I'm going to have my screen open and show you some sample email subject lines that I've written for 3 different niches. I'm sure you'll find it very valuable. We'll get straight to it. All right, so let's get started. Here's the lesson on writing email subject lines that get the click. You can see here I've got 3 rules, okay? And I have a sample niche here. YouTube ads, biz op coaching. So let's just imagine that's the niche you're in. That's the audience you're after. People who want to make money by creating YouTube ads to sell their businesses, and you coach, sell their offers, and you coach people on how to do this. All right. We'll go through each of the 3 rules one at a time. So my first rule is you need to create an open loop in your email subject lines. I mean, that's crucial, right? Because curiosity is everything. If your email subject line is like a too long didn't read version of what's in your email, if you kind of give the secrets away, not that every email needs to contain a secret, but if you kind of stamp all over curiosity, if you're not hinting at a story that needs to be told in the body of the email, people have absolutely no reason to click the link and open the email. And I mean, there are some exceptions to the rule, like typically a welcome email. When someone's very first joining your list, we tend to write something that's very functional in a way. It's their very first interaction with us, so we want to let them know who we are. And look, typically they'll have signed up to acquire a lead magnet of some kind, and you just want to deliver the lead magnet and say, your X is here. So in that sense, you're giving away the secret contained in the email. But once you've kind of broke the ice with your list, it gets harder to keep your audience engaged and get them opening your emails time and time again. So we always want to create an open loop in the subject line, something unresolved. They need to be curious. There needs to be that cognitive dissonance with, like, right, I want to finish this story. This copywriter's, that something's being teased at or hinted at. So here's an example of, and this is a weak subject line. Okay, it's not great. This is how a lot of people will try to do the open loop. They'll put something like, the most effective way to make money online today. I mean, that does create an open loop because you're not giving away the answer. People have to click the email and open the email to find out what the answer is. What is the most effective way to make money online today? Well, I have to open the email to find out, but it doesn't draw me in because it's far too broad and general. It's not specific enough to me, make money online. That could be anything, man. Like what? So like that's weak. So you'll see a lot of things like this, where people are trying so hard to open a loop in a subject line, and they're doing the right thing, that they're applying the correct tactic, but they're just not executing it very well. They're just not executing it smartly. And the way you execute the open loop tactic smartly is if you layer on rule number 2, specificity. So let's take our YouTube ads biz op coaching offer as an example, all right? So yes, we want an open loop in the email subject line. Let's now add something specific to it, all right? Let's make it more concrete, something more tangible. So instead of saying make money online today, let's attach a specific figure. How to make 10K a month online. Okay, it's like the most common promise in the world these days, but we've attached a specific figure to the amount of money that could be made, 10K in a month. And it's the same open loop, right? It's the same open loop. We don't know what this way is. We don't know what this method is. We have to open the email to find out. And we've added some specificity that makes us stand out in people's inboxes. It makes us look less bland, less generic. There's a tangible promise in here, something for me to hold on to as the reader. So this is a much better, much stronger subject line. Obviously, it's very cliched. I'm not saying it's great. It's just stronger than this one, because we took rule number 1, we created the open loop, and then we layered on rule number 2, we added some specificity. But then if you want to make your email subject line super strong, you layer on the next rule, okay? Relevancy. Make it relevant to your target audience. And there can be some crossover here between specificity and relevancy, because specific details in your subject line can make the copy very relevant to your target audience as well. But there's a difference, right? Because we are targeting, we have a YouTube ads offer, and this promise here, yes, it has an open loop, yes, it has specificity, but it could still be at most target audience. It could still be targeted at most audiences. This isn't necessarily, it's clearly BizOp, yes, but is this speaking directly to someone who is likely to use YouTube ads to grow their business? It's not clear. We're not making this relevant to our audience. All right. So try these couple of subject lines for size. This YouTube ad makes 10K a month, or you could say it makes me 10K a month. Full breakdown. So there's an open loop. Where's the open loop, right? It's people don't know what's so good about this ad. So you're saying, look, this YouTube ad makes me $10,000 a month. Full breakdown. You're going to discover how in this email. It has an open loop because you want to see what's so special about this YouTube ad to the point where it makes its right to 10K a month. It's obviously very specific. We've said that the ad is a YouTube ad. Sorry, we're not even talking about making money online now. We're specifically talking about YouTube ads. We've got a specific amount that it's making per month. We're offering a full breakdown of the ad inside the email, so we're being quite specific about the email's content. This email subject line is chock full of specificity that's going to make it stand out in someone's inbox, and it's highly relevant to a target prospect for this kind of offer. All right. Another example of the subject line is how this 30-second YouTube ad makes me 10K a month. All right. Open loop created. It's basically saying it's got the exact same message as this, just worded a slightly different way, and it's slightly shorter as well. Might not be truncated on mobile. So that's an example of how to do it, right? You've taken an open loop, you've laid on specificity, you've laid on some relevancy. These are quite strong subject lines. Yeah, they're cliched, of course they are, but these are highly more likely to get open and get the click than the previous two. So let's try a completely different niche. Let's move away from YouTube ads and the world of marketing and stuff. And let's imagine that you are a course creator for hairdressers, all right? And you've created a hairdressing course for beginners. And I've added in an extra thing here. What story are we telling in the email? Perhaps this is going to be a business that's very personal brand focused, and you're emailing your list regularly and sharing lots of stories with them. So let's imagine we want to tell them a story of how you got your first client, or a situation or a scenario that happened with your first client, first hairdressing client back when you started as a hairdresser. Like, how would you use my 3 rules to write a good email subject line for this? So if we were to stick with rule number 1, the open loop, on a very basic level, and how often have you seen stuff like this? How often have you seen stuff like this? 2 words she said to me that brought me to tears. It tells you, it kind of says a lot without saying much. This could be anything to anybody, all right? Yes, we're being specific about the number of words spoken. We're being specific about an emotion that was caused, although we're actually we're being vague in the sense that it could be tears of joy or tears of sadness. There's a definite open loop there, and that is, what there's a story there being told, 100%. So it's a lot stronger than some subject lines you'll see that don't tease at any kind of story or unresolved conflict. But it lacks specificity and relevancy to the target audience. And if we layer on some specificity here with rule number 2, we say, my very first client, 2 words she said to me afterwards. So like this clearly hints at not necessarily a hairdresser, but we're talking here about a service provider in a client scenario, which will obviously resonate with the target audience who are training to be service providers. Whereas that could be anything. Like, that could be any person in any niche who had a conversation with anybody who was female. Whereas this brings in specificity because we're talking about serving a client, and the core message is the same. We're mentioning these 2 words that are so intriguing, and we want to find out what the 2 words are. That's the open loop, right? And then if we add in some relevancy, We can make it more about the audience themselves. 2 words you'll want your first client to say to you. I mean, that's quite an irresistible subject line for your target audience. Obviously, they'll know it's from you because of the from name. They'll know what you're all about. You've nurtured a relationship with them. They'll know that this subject line relates to hairdressing and hairdressing clients. And we're being very specific about the first client scenario, the 2 words, the open loop. And we've made it more relevant than the second one here because we've made it more about the subscriber than about ourselves. And the final example number 3, let's imagine you're a CrossFit coach and you coach busy 9-to-5ers. Again, we've given a story example here. Imagine you're trying to teach or the email has some content in there, like a link to a video where you're going to teach your audience a special double unders technique. And if you're not into CrossFit or fitness, like a double under is essentially, it's like jumping rope, it's a skipping rope, and it's where you jump and the rope passes underneath your feet twice. So a double under is obviously a lot more difficult to do than a single under. And CrossFit people, like typically beginners, they need to learn how to do double unders. So if we apply rule number 1, the open loop, you'd say something like, this comes up in WODs all the time. WOD stands for workout of the day. Again, it's CrossFit terminology. But it's not being specific, is it? Like, we're not talking about double unders. It could be any exercise at all that would appear in a CrossFit WOD. So yes, it's clearly targeting a CrossFit audience. Obviously, your audience will know it's coming from you, but it might not be very clicky. They might just think, sounds a bit boring, very generic. So if you add in rule number 2 and add in some specificity, my number 1 double unders technique. All right, we've got clearly a lot more specific. We're mentioning double unders. We're mentioning that it's a technique that they're going to be shown in the email. We're mentioning that it's essentially your favorite technique. It's your number 1. So this is a much stronger email subject line. And if we want to make it really relevant to our audience, we could give them a promise as well. My number 1 double unders technique, learn it in 30 seconds. So we're not just saying, this is me showing off my double unders technique. We're saying, here's me showing you a double unders technique and you can learn it in 30 seconds. There's a benefit there for the reader, which makes it highly relevant to them. And I've noticed again, like when you're trying to create an open loop and you're trying to add specificity and you're trying to add relevancy, you might be thinking, all of this is going to result in really long subject lines. And some of these are quite long, right? Like, look at this one. This is a long subject line. And you may hear advice about how, you need to keep your email subject lines as short as possible because they stand out more in the inbox and they don't truncate on mobile. This is why we test stuff, right? I typically write 3 subject lines for every email I write. One of them might be very short, so it does appear fully and it's not truncated on people's mobile devices. But I don't have any hard and fast rules. Long subject lines, I've written really long subject lines that have had really high open rates. Like, don't underestimate the intelligence of your audience, okay? It doesn't have to be super short. People are willing to read long subject lines and people can be very intrigued by long subject lines. But for an example here, I thought I'll do an example of a really short one. Look at that one. Hits a DU. A lot of people who do CrossFit, perhaps beginners, would know that DU stands for double under because there's a lot of acronyms and jargon in CrossFit. Hit a DU in 30 secs. So it's the same message. It's got an open loop. It's got specificity. It's got relevancy. We've done it in a very minimal number of characters. So this proves that you can use this 3-rule technique in even a super short email subject line. You just have to think a little bit harder and get a bit more creative with it. As it stands, I mean, I find this a little bit cheesy, and I don't think, I'm not necessarily when this is a great email subject line, but it's a lot stronger than some of the more generic stuff that you'll see, okay, because it hits on these 3 rules. And this, I wrote this as an example here because sometimes you can expand. I mean, this is the whole point. Like you write an email subject line that grabs people's attention, and then if we're using the AIDA formula, AIDA, attention, interest, desire, action, you grab people's attention with the subject line, and then you can immediately start to build people's interest when in the main body of the email. So, like, let's say for this one, hit a DU in 30 secs. It took me 6 months of tireless practice to nail my first double under. But in today's video, I'm going to show you my favorite game-changing technique that could have you executing your first DU rep in as little as 30 seconds. This is a great way to build on a super short subject line and tell more of a story once you've got the click and got the open. I just thought I'd chuck that in as a little exercise in how you maintain someone's interest when you first grab their attention with the subject line as well. And any kind of lesson on email subject lines would be remiss if I didn't mention B2B. I'm going to wrap this up really quickly, but I have quite a lot of experience writing B2B emails. And the rules of B2B are definitely, well, slightly different in the sense that people like to simplify things. It makes for such a great soundbite. Typically on social media, people will say, oh, there's no such thing as B2C or B2B. There's only such a thing as H to H, human to human. Like, yes, but there's no denying that a senior level executive of an enterprise firm reviews their email inbox and looks at their email subject lines in a different way to a consumer. Like, they don't like to be teased as much. These are very, if you're reaching out to, say, the CEO of a company or the CMO, a high level person, they don't have time. They don't have time or patience to be teased as if they were, like of a weekend, and they're the consumer then, and they're reading emails from their favorite brands and so on. But when they're sat down in their 9 to 5 and they're reviewing their business inbox, their work emails, you need to get to the point really, really fast and not kind of tease as much, because it's just going to look spammy to them if you try to write an email subject line that's a bit too B2C. But here's a classic B2B email subject line. You'll have seen this hundreds of times before. Kane, meet Jess. Jess, meet Kane. It has all three elements. There's a clear open loop. Why does Kane need to meet Jess? Why does Jess need to meet Kane? What's in it for each of us? Got to click and open the email to find out. So there's a clear open loop there. Kane doesn't know Jess yet. Jess doesn't know Kane. Let's find out about each other by opening the email. Specificity. We've used specific names. There isn't, Kane, meet this chief marketing officer, or Jess, meet this copywriter. We've used people's specific names, which does stand out in the inbox, and it does create some level of intrigue. And then there's the relevancy, all right? I mean, this is relevant to the target audience because, again, the specificity leads to the relevancy, the name, all right? So let's imagine that I've received this email from a friend, and they're introducing this to me, and they're saying, Kane, meet Jess. Of course it's relevant to me. My name's in it. It's clearly for me. And the open loop hints at something beneficial to me. Kane, meet Jess. Someone has sent me this who I trust. All right, clearly I need to open this email because there's something in this for me. This is relevant to me because it has my name in it. It's come from someone I trust. You can do similar tactics in cold email. Obviously, I'm using the example of someone of a warm connection, somebody but you can apply the same 3 rules in a cold email: the open loop, the specificity, and the relevancy. You just have to get to the point a bit more and don't be as much of a tease. But you don't always have to do the too long didn't read version either with B2B. You still generate that level of curiosity, intrigue. I highly recommend it. It's the best way to get your email opened. But just be a bit more mindful of their time and don't be as cutesy or teasy because it might wear people's patience thin. All right, that's all from me today. I hope you found this very, very useful on a practical, tactical level. It works almost like a pre-flight checklist. If you've written out an email subject line and you're ready to hit send, just run through the 3 rules. Does it have an open loop? Does it have specificity? Does it have relevancy to the target audience? You can't go wrong, really, if you're hitting these 3 rules. Like, you're almost guaranteed to have open rates, kind of 25, maybe 30% or above, because you're going to put more thought into the psychology behind the copy in your email subject lines. All right. So if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. That's all from me today. I look forward to seeing you on the next video.